So the Nets firing Steve Nash may be a bit more complicated than you think. I think this was something coming way before the Nets' recent struggles this year. A few things to consider when discussing the mutual decision to part ways with Steve Nash. First, let's address the elephant in the room, which is the Nets wanting to pursue Ime Udoka. I believe the way that the Celtics handled the Ime Udoka situation had a lot to do with the Nets not firing Steve Nash earlier, in my opinion. I think since the news broke, the Nets had their eye on Udoka long before that, because if the Celtics had fired Udoka and they didn't leave so much ambiguity with his future with the Celtics, the Nets would have jumped on that opportunity ASAP, as Udoka is an ex-assistant coach for the Nets. And the Nets, seeing how Udoka changed the Boston Celtics team around, made their eyes light up. And now, with Boston saying they will allow Udoka to pursue other coaching opportunities if offered, and Nash and the Nets reaching a mutual agreement that quickly, it says a lot. Now, let's be clear. This partnership was over long before it started. The Nets have not reached their desired potential, which is ultimately contending for a championship. They have failed year after year. And now with how poorly they are performing for the season, the writing was really on the wall. They were 28th in defensive efficiency overall, and you have solid defenders on this team. Not to mention, they are 12th in the Eastern Conference at 2-5. And you have 3 max contract players. While many people don't consider them a championship team, there's no excuse for them to perform that poorly. And as I stated in a previous video, it's because the lack of leadership on the court and from the head coach. The Nets bringing in Ime Udoka is the type of leadership they need. And it also goes to show you how much the NBA still values Ime Udoka's services, even after how the Boston Celtics handled the entire situation. Because as Stephen A said, why make this information public if it's a consensual relationship, and speak about the guy in the manner that they did? So Ime will in fact be the Nets head coach going forward. In my opinion, I bank on it. They have stated that Dan Snyder's in the mix, but I don't think he's their main option at all. So in my opinion, Steve Nash was really never qualified to be a head coach, and the performance shows that. Now, I think Steve Nash was an excellent player, and I don't think he's done coaching. I think maybe he'll find a role as an assistant coach or maybe a front office role if he really loves the game. And I'm not going to act like he didn't have a very hard job. You look at the 3 guys that they had to deal with. We know what Durant brings to the table, which is a media circus, or he's going back and forth with sports personalities, or he's got burner Twitter accounts. We know what Ben Simmons brings to the table. And recently, even with Kyrie Irving and his situation that's going on right now, Steve Nash had his hands full, and it's a difficult ask for a new head coach to manage all of those personalities, but he did know what he was signing up for prior to taking this job. But the Nets project just hasn't worked out. And again, I do think he was working uphill. Like, throwing Ben Simmons into the mix is a hard ask from a guy who hasn't played basketball in a year. And then you want him to work with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, but Steve Nash just really didn't have the expertise to make that work. And I think Ime Udoka will help the Nets find a flow to their offense and properly implement Ben Simmons, Kevin Durant, and Kyrie Irving, much like the Warriors did with Andrew Wiggins. A lot of people thought he was washed, but he ended up being a bigger piece to their championship run than Klay Thompson and Draymond Green. So I think Ime will be the perfect fit for the Nets. I think this is what they wanted the entire time. And I also think this is why the Celtics handled the situation in which they did, because they didn't want to provide themselves any additional competition that they didn't need, especially within the Eastern Conference. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Until next time, like, comment, and subscribe. This has been another episode with No Time to Explain.